Street talk time. Everybody who's listening on YouTube, just be aware, Michael has got a croaky voice and he's not going to be doing as much talking as usual, so it's all going to fall to me.
Yes.
Which everyone's really excited about.
As I said earlier, because we're 15 minutes into the main podcast now, I would let Gemma do most of the talking, but I just can't keep my mouth shut about things, so we'll have to see, won't we? Including the fact that I'm going to be running the clickbait segment at the beginning of today's Street Talk section, so we'll get your brain around this one, Gemma, and listeners. I don't know whether you've seen these articles. Number 1, Coronation Street fans work out Tim's secret affair, and it's with someone unexpected. Who is Tim about to have a secret affair with, do you think?
From Belfast Live.
Live, this article. Another Facebook group scraping this one came from.
Lou?
No. That could be a good one. I like that, though. Not a bad idea.
Abby?
No. She's already got her hands full with Carl.
Who's he spoken
you possibly
to?
could You possibly could put this one together, I'm going to say. It's not
Carla or Lisa?
No.
Who? How would I put it together?
Cassie.
Why?
Because he's
Steve. Because they were sitting in the same room.
Well, no, his mate Steve, his bird at the moment, that would be very soapy. I'm not expecting Tim to have an affair. I think that Corrie know that they're onto a good thing with that relationship.
What's the point of that?
And it's one of the few Corrie relationships that people are really, really passionate about, and it's been long term. So, And I like Steve and Cassie together, so I say no thank you to that one. Number 2, Coronation Street icon gutted after told absolutely no by bosses in Korea bombshell.
Also from Belfast.
That's Korea, not Korea, the country. Like, I just want to go on holiday to North Korea, and Corrie's like, no, you're not doing that, Barbara Knox. They might not come back.
I really have nothing to go on here.
This is very vague, isn't it? So there's a Coronation Street icon, and bosses have told them absolutely no in a career bombshell. You will never guess this, so I'll give you a few. Somebody
wants to leave, and they're being told they can't.
No, quite the opposite.
Somebody wants to stay, come back.
Right, this is Simon Gregson, okay? So he was on a podcast recently. I think it was a driving podcast.
Excellent.
I'll pause now for any other guesses.
He wanted to become a race driver.
Yes.
And they said no.
Yes.
Absolutely no.
Absolutely. This was young Simon Gregson. He was very much into cars when he was younger, and he wanted to be a rally driver. And he said to his bosses, look, can I do this alongside Coronation Street? And because it classed as a dangerous sport or activity or something, or extreme, they were like, no, you can't do that.
Probably insurance.
You got to pick one or the other. So he went for Corrie in the end. How life could have been different for him.
He might be dead.
Might be in traction or anything. Number 3, ITV Coronation Street icon to return 21 years after exit to rescue Todd from Theo. So we have the icon status here, Gemma. I don't know whether that's a little clue to you there, or whether it's maybe a bit of a hoodwink.
It's not Jason again.
No, because he was here less than 21 years ago. I don't know if you remember.
I don't do maths. Eileen, no, she's not.
21 years after exit, Gemma. This is somebody who left.
Mean?
Somebody who left in 2004.
I don't know. I don't understand how anybody measures time with dates.
Calendars usually help.
Literally, I only know the future for dates. Anything that happened in the past, unless it was 1945, I know that one. 1939, pretty clear on that one. 1888, that's when Jack the Ripper came. And that is literally the only dates I ever remember. I don't understand how you can contextualise things in years.
So, have a think back to the early 2000s. Todd, right? So, and what was going on maybe with Todd in 2004?
I don't know.
Do you want... Okay, so this was around the time when Todd came out as gay. So there was a character. I don't even know what. You're not going to know who it is.
Who?
Okay, it was Carl Foster, the other nurse at the hospital that helped Todd discover his sexuality and had a little bit of an affair with him while he was still going out with Sarah Louise.
They were in a lift.
Yes, it was Carl in a lift. There you go, you remember.
Yeah, but I don't know when it was.
They didn't have a calendar inside the lift.
I'm not like one of these people that visualises, like people can they visualise a calendar revolving around them.
No, he was quite a nice character, and but although he was part of...
Do you know what I say? What? Let's empower Todd to rescue himself.
Yeah, somebody needs to flip and rescue him, though, because I think he's hopeless, Todd, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's just falling for this.
Hopeless romantic.
Hook, line and sinker. Final bit of clickbait from this week, then we'll get on to this week's Street Talk proper. Coronation Street's fans demand ITV bosses bring back soap icon after, here's a date for you, Gemma, 13 years.
But the previous articles from Wales Online, and this is from Yahoo.
This is from Yahoo, yeah. So somebody who was last in the show in 2012.
Is it Michelle?
No.
I don't know.
2012 was the year that we started, and I think as a little bit of an extra bonus clue for you, they had left before we started recording the podcast.
Oh,
so
Becky.
No, but that's a really good guess. And I imagine that more people would want Becky to come back than this particular person. But
Becky's boyfriend.
She did indeed leave in early 2012.
I don't know then. I'm sorry. I just don't know years. When I was doing the Abby quiz and I was reading through it and it was like, oh, Abby, something, Michelle's car. And I was like, was Michelle in it? When Abby was in it? What?
Okay, so the person that Corrie fans, according to this particular article... They are related.
Is it a man or a woman?
They are half related.
Kate Connor.
To two current characters on the street and one who is currently away on a sabbatical.
Amber.
Yeah, there we go. Amber Kalari has been declared the next one to come back to Coronation Street, according to this article.
I'm not going to disparage because I love Amber.
I
wouldn't say so.
Hot and cold on her. If she came back, maybe they bring back Sophie as well, so that wouldn't be bad. Okay, well there we go, that's this week's clickbait. Thank you very much for sending that in to us. And now we are going to get on to this week's Corrie. We only had 2 episodes this week, didn't we? Monday and Friday. Got a little bit of a break.
Monday and Friday?
Oh, Wednesday, sorry, I don't even know what day of the week it is. Yeah, this is a massive gap between Corries, right? So we had Wednesday this week, and then the next Coronation Street is Thursday next week. Bloody football. We're getting 8 days between Coronation Streets, Gemma. How are you feeling about this?
I forgot what happened. What show is this?
I was thinking this morning, I don't think it was a massively memorable week anyway. Especially not compared to the previous week where we had the Ardy's party and everything. So it was a bit of a ho-hum sort of pair of episodes to me. And not particularly ones that are making me go, ooh, I can't wait to see what's happening next. But 8 days without Coronation Street. Come on, you're starving us, ITV.
What do you think, we're on holiday?
Well, I guess we're having a little break from it now, aren't we? Apart from right now as we're recording, and it's just going to make my voice worse. I'm going to are you going to do all the synopsing and let me just do a bit of interrupting?
Yeah, why
really
not?
Annoying interrupting, okay. But let me say the storyline titles at least. I've got a couple of good ones.
Why don't you?
So we're starting off with the family affair storyline. That is not a good one. That is Abby, and not a new one either. That's Abby and Carl and Kevin. Then I like this one. Gary in a coma. See, Gemma's smiling already about this one. We're calling, and this is also including all the other bits that are related to the party as well. But Gary's in a coma. He is the gingerbread man. yeah, gingerbread man. He's ginger and he's in a bed.
Great.
You also quite like this one, don't you? Because it just is another dig at that lovable plank of wood that is Theo. We're calling it Mills and Buffoon rather than Mills and Boone.
Millie is the Mills.
Yeah. Although, again, I want to say, who's the biggest buffoon here? Is it Theo or is it Todd, who is just being massive doormat and allowing himself to be somewhat slightly abused by this person? Or at least that's how I'm reading it anyway.
No, you can't blame the victim.
No, well, he needs to see the warning signs. Come on. He's a man of the world. He's had plenty of bad blokes in the past.
If he doesn't like it, you should just put him in a coffin and bury him.
There's also James involved in this now, isn't there? Getting him in there. Dee-Dee wanting to have a little undercover christening for Laila, which on Wednesday's episode she said, oh, you're all ready for the christening tomorrow, Billy?
Don't tell anybody.
Tomorrow is going to be 8 days time, yeah.
What a way to throw people off the scent.
But maybe it is religious themed. It's a bit like, how in the Bible it says the world was created in 7 days, and some people say, well, it could be translated as just 7 periods of time.
It's just a loose explanation.
Yeah, so I guess that works with christening arrangements as well. We're calling this the Secret Service. I've gotten loads of chuckles and jammer this week. This is built. It's not just because it's my birthday week.
These are 3 really solid.
Solid new additions to the Corrie plot title. Yeah. And then we've got the Sassy Cassie Steve's New Lassie, which is still very much a throwaway one. And not a whole lot happened there this week either. So, family affair first. all things that have gone on with those wonderful Websters and also the woeful Websters. What, Gemma, have they been up to this week?
A family affair.
Yes.
On Monday, Kevin takes
You don't need to say it in a stupid voice just because I am.
Right, so Alfie's playing around on Abby's phone, and Kevin takes it to help him, and he sees something, and I do not know how he managed to see this, because he was supposed to be helping Alfie with a game, but he manages to pull up the text messages that Abby has had from Carl.
That was like so sus, wasn't it? That was like serious. One, I'm thinking, why are they letting Alfie play mobile games?
No, hang on, this is what people do.
I know they do. But I'm saying, come on, Kevin and Abby. How old is it? How long's Imran?
Both of these...
4 years?
What? So what?
Don't placate your child with microtransaction-filled brain rot Candy Crush games.
What? Because it's been 4 years since your dad died. Buck up your ideas, kid.
But yeah, my biggest problem with this was definitely how did that transform into... Unless Kevin was purposefully wanting to look, which he wasn't, because it was an accidental discovery.
If anyone on Coronation Street is going to accidentally thumb their way into someone's private messages, it's going to be Kevin.
Thumb their way into someone's private.
Well, you know how sometimes you can like flick your thumb and you kind of go through from one app to another. Not that I think it was an iPhone. I don't know how other phones work.
Oh, I think they have their own bespoke operating systems in Weatherfield. So maybe they've got it's an easily done thing.
Maybe when a Weatherfield phone sees that the person who unlocks the phone is not the person looking at it, they just open your most secret and private conversations.
Although, I mean, I suppose one might infer from this, that Abby has most recently had that text message open. It's been on her mind, like and it was the next one across. Yeah, so she's been staring at it, but not replying.
It wasn't particularly incriminating anyway, to be honest with you, because Carl's message, it was a bunch of guff about doing some random, yeah, and then the message from Carl was, how do I get to know you better?
Yeah, but it kind of came out of the blue, didn't it? So the message about how do I get to know you better was clearly a response to something they've said to each other, IRL. But it's enough to give Kevin a raised eyebrow.
Well, he would know because he's a big cheat himself, so...
Yeah, well, maybe that's what he was texting Sally back on his Nokia 3210 in Natalie Horrocks in 1997.
Right,
Who knows?
Abby then confronts Carl in the office because does she know that he's seen this, or she suspects, doesn't she? Yeah, she sees that he's looked at the messages, so she goes and sees Carl. He's working. He's doing the dodgy MOT stuff. I think if you had just started watching it now, you wouldn't know because they don't keep referencing it, which is unusual for Coronation Street.
Is he still... Oh, yeah, he was doing something fiddly with the computer, wasn't he? I kind of forgot that was still a thing.
That's still his main thing, isn't it? So she's like, stop sending me texts like that. And Kevin's seen it and he's really grumpy. And he's like, don't worry about it. But then Kevin comes to see Abby in the garage and can tell that she's a bit flustered. And... she then tells Kevin that Carl has been up to something weird with signing off a car that isn't finished and accuses him of being sloppy and tells Kevin to keep an eye on it and get rid of Carl because he's going to put the business in jeopardy. So then Kevin watches the CCTV footage later and we see that it was actually Abby who'd done this to the car herself. And I was really shocked about this because I thought that she had picked up on what Carl was up to with the dodgy MOTs, but she was setting him up. Were you surprised?
I can't remember, to be quite frank with you.
Well, anyway, he confronts her about this and says, why are you doing this? And what was with that text message? Carl comes down in the middle of this conversation and says, oh, it wasn't anything, it was just a bit of banter.
Yeah, so this week really was the beginning of Kevin's suspicions, wasn't it? And he had them earlier in the year when, wasn't Abby and Ronnie sort of enjoying each other's company?
Oh, yeah, because
more than Kevin liked.
Because he's got this, and they haven't really dwelled on it very much, but because of his testicular cancer, I think that there's an implication that he feels like his manhood has kind of been jeopardised, and because there were bits where Abby was kind of like asking him to go to bed and he couldn't, or he was too tired or something like that, and so he's obviously had a bit of an ego bashing. And it's really funny that Coronation Street is not leaning more into this because I think this is a really important storyline, especially for older men who might be going through some kind of crisis like this. We had it a bit with Tim when he had his heart attack and he couldn't be with Sally. And I don't know, they've never shied away from repeating storylines. But I do feel as though this is a really important thread of like why Kevin feels so hurt and why he's so suspicious and paranoid.
I think I'm still imagining that ever since he's got together with Abby as well, he's thought, shall we say no, that he's punching.
How did I end up with this fox?
Yeah.
So,
but you would never, I don't think you would ever suspect your brother because, that's the bro code, isn't it?
No, but I think I would if I didn't know him. If this guy suddenly turned up and, you weren't raised together, I do think that having a bond with your sibling is very different if you were raised in the same house as children. Don't you think? Do you think if somebody came up to you and they were just your brother but they were much younger...
I'd suspect that you and him were...
I don't think it's the same thing. I think there's a real bond between siblings who were raised together as children.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference there. Anyway. I don't know whether Kevin's got the imagination to suspect that actual affair is coming. I think Right, I know he's punching, but he also thinks that... I would have thought that he also thinks he's just kind of very comfortable there and wouldn't realise that something's going on under his nose.
Why are you saying that when he literally, in the next scene, accuses her of cheating with him?
Oh, no, I know he is now, but he strikes me as, he's very happy having his pants washed and his tea made.
So you think that he is in no way paranoid, even though he already was paranoid earlier in the year?
No, I know that he is, but he doesn't... I don't know what I'm saying. Sorry, you're supposed to be talking more anyway.
No, it's okay. If you could think about what you mean,
I'd
say.
Okay.
You won't be when anything we say, even if it's completely off the wall, is never going to be the only time anyone's ever thought that.
I think he's got his head in the sand a lot of the time.
That's fair enough.
And he's just happily sitting on the sofa, obliviously watching the world go by. But obviously he has had these suspicions about Abby before. Without
wishing to be too rude, I do think that if you were going to use one word for the men of Coronation Street, oblivious wouldn't be too far off the mark.
A lot of them, yeah.
Right. Only for plot purposes, of course. It's more exciting that way. So they go back to the house. Kevin confronts Abby and says, "Are you cheating on me with my brother?" And she's like, "No, I don't even like him." She's always like, he's always bantering. And he says, why didn't you tell me this before? And she says, "I'm sorry, he was your brother. I didn't want to bring it up." And he says, "Well, I'm sorry that I accused you. I shouldn't have done that." And they hug. But there's still a bit of lingering feelings because Kevin leaves the house and goes over to Carl and says, "Sorry about accusing you of having an affair with my wife, but the text really made Abby feel uncomfortable. Can you just stop bantering with her about it?" And Carl kind of like agrees and makes a bit of a joke. But when Kevin goes, he's like, "Oh, phew, got away with that." So then Carl talks to Abby later and says, "Kevin came in to talk to me about this. Why did you make out like I'm some kind of sex pest?"
Where would they get that idea from? He is a massive sex pest.
He's a creep. He's a weirdo.
I know that Abby's not completely innocent in this, and it breaks my heart that she is just wandering blindly into this.
She tried shutting him down so many times.
She has. And it's not in the same way like, when Sarah Louise was trying, in inverted commas, to rebuff whoever it was last time, Damon. She's like, "Oh, no. Abby genuinely is saying, 'Stay away from me. We can't let this happen.'" But then I know she's been hinting that she wouldn't be completely adverse to it in a different situation where Kevin didn't exist. But she is very clearly saying no to him. And he is being very much like a sex pest in his insistence, I say.
Sex pest.
He is.
You're a sex pest. So Abby starts crying and saying, "Look, I feel really awful because I've had to keep this secret from Kevin." And he hugs her, she pulls away, and obviously the person who sees this happen, Kevin.
Just happening to be walking by across the road. Right,
so on Wednesday he's very suspicious of Abby over breakfast, and she thinks that this is just nerves because he's got an appointment booked today for his checkup to find out whether the treatment to get rid of his cancer has worked.
I didn't know what to expect at the beginning of this story. At this episode. Had you had any predictions about whether the cancer
I'd seen spoilers about this.
Oh no,
I knew that he was going to lie to her about it.
I didn't, and I can't believe that that's how it's ended up. We'll get there when we get there.
So when you saw that he was going to get his checkup on Wednesday, did you think, "Oh, I hope he's all right. Or
I just assumed that he would be because this story has not been predominantly driven by Kevin's cancer. This is a story that's, I suppose, A, an affair, B, a dementia plot with a little bit of annoying cancer lingering in the background there. So I just assumed that they were going to can the cancer and then focus on the main draw of the story for the next however many months. Wow. So I just thought it'd be all over.
Kevin's got other ideas.
And I was right, but not with the way that it's been left.
They think it's all over. It's not yet.
No, as the quote goes.
Kevin has got his Lucky Weddy County top on. Abby criticises him and tells him he looks like a scruff bag, which I find hilarious because I have never in my life ever judged anybody who I've seen waiting in hospital.
But also, Kevin always looks like a scruff bag.
I think
we don't all have perfect teeth, or.
I thought he looked strangely smart in his football top.
Did you?
Wow, I mean, he always looks scruffy.
Well, it was nice and colourful, wasn't it, compared to the dowdy, tattered stuff that he usually wears. Like, how long's... I know he doesn't have his purple jacket anymore, but maybe it was her that made him get rid of it.
I say let you... anything you want to wear, if you're going to find out whether you've got cancer still, wear what the hell you like. I mean, a lot of people are going to be wearing backless gowns when they find out one way or the other, aren't they? This is slightly more formal than that. So... there's a to-do with work, there's a call-out, will Carl go, will Abby go? Turns out that Abby goes to the call-out because Kevin insists that she go instead of Carl, so he's going by himself.
Yeah, he at this point is still somewhat convinced that something is indeed going on.
Well, he's being standoffish about the pair of them.
Yeah, after seeing that hug.
So, in the cafe... Ronnie tells Kevin that he has put in an offer at number 6 so that he and Debbie can live there together. Jenny's turned up out of nowhere. She's been exiled, but she's kind of walked back from Siberia or wherever she's been staying, and she is in the cafe and she puts her foot in it by saying about how Debbie, she seems so normal at the moment. And Ronnie's like, well, she is normal. And Jenny's like, you know what I mean. I don't know what to say. But, it kind of gets smoothed over a little bit. I thought that was a very interesting scene. But again, it's like really... scenes like this I don't think really help anybody because that makes you feel bad for everyone, but there's no obvious way around it. Like, what do you just never... The only other way around this is... to just never speak to somebody who's got a diagnosis, and like that happens far too often. Yeah, because you're scared of putting your foot in it.
Yeah, I think that's what Jenny said is a natural thing for people to say, and she can be a bit ditzy and open mouth before engaging brain in some of her comments.
I do think there are two types of like saying the wrong thing when somebody has got something terrible that's happened to them. One of them is like just willfully blundering to the worst thing you could possibly say. Like, I don't even want to
be dead in a month then.
I don't even want to say, but like there are just things that most people would understand are not the correct thing to say, and then there's like just being tactless. I always put myself in the position of the person who says the tactless thing because I know I would do, and it makes me feel really bad because I wish that I would know what exactly you would say. But yeah, it's a bit awkward, but I think they managed to get... She gets away with it, I think.
Yeah.
So Abby strops back to the garage because
she's been out on a call-out.
She's been doing this call-out and Carl's just hanging around. And she's like, I thought you were supposed to be busy. That's why I had to go and do this call-out. I wanted to be with Kevin and go and see if he's all right. And Carl's just being all casual about it. And she goes, look, do you want Kevin to die so we can be together or something? And he says, yeah, I do. I want you to myself.
He doesn't say that he wants Kev to be dead, but he does say, wouldn't it be handy if...
You feel the same. And she's like, no.
Yeah, she does.
He carries on pestering her. She's resisting.
See what she sees in this guy. He's vile. He's slimy and horrible.
There's a bit of tension between them. She tells him to sling his hook. And he's getting frustrated and says, I'm being honest. You should be honest too. You can't keep faking being happy with Kevin. And he goes to kiss her she leans in and he's like, so he pulls back and she doesn't get to kiss him, but she fell for the bait, didn't she? Of his beautiful
Are you
lips.
disappointed in Abby? Do you think this is kind of doing a number on her character, this story? Because it's moments like that. If they'd have, I'm currently at a stage where genuinely I do not know if this is going to turn into an affair or whether it's going to be nipped in the bud before it does. 'Cause that's what I've been saying, it should have happened by this point. But if they'd have just kept on Abby resisting, maybe having a little look but saying, no, I can't, I think she might not have gone down in my estimation quite so far. But it's moments like these that made me go, come on, what do you think? Are you feeling...
She's tried
Has she
so
been
hard.
character assassinated a bit?
I don't know what to say about this. She should just be flattered, I guess. No, I don't know. I really don't know. Like, he's beyond reprehensible for... She's so vulnerable too. I mean, we're not even talking about the fact that she has got PTSD and she watched a lad die in her arms and it brought back everything really to do with her son. And she's so vulnerable, and now she couldn't for a long time confide in Kevin because of his cancer, and she feels quite alone and adrift, and Carl's doing everything he can to chip away at those two, you know, the relationship between those two and separate her out. Like he's like a lion separating a deer from the pack, you know?
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that a little bit. It's not an excuse, but it does make him look like he's taken advantage of her even more, doesn't it?
Yeah, so Kevin comes back from his appointment and we do not know how it's gone. He's got a bit of a poker face.
Yeah, this is still in the hospital, wasn't it? He was like walking out the door and you could not tell one way or another, which was... Because
he's clearly at this point thinking to himself, what do I do now? What do I do now? Because
you're right. Thinking, I hadn't thought about recontextualising this scene. Now we know what he actually goes ahead and does.
He's thinking to himself, that's good news for me, but now I don't have that. Because what was it? He's also thinking about the bond that's grown between
Carl and Abby.
No, Debbie and Ronnie. About she's ill and he's protecting her, and
yeah, they have a conversation.
He's probably thinking to himself, if I carry on saying I'm sick, she has to stay with me. Like, he's probably really insecure, thinking she's going to go off with Carl. Why would she stay with me? Like, for all the reasons that we said previously. Like, he's a grumpy old man, and maybe he's thinking to himself, the only thing's keeping her with me is the fact I've got cancer. I've got to keep this up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reasoning they're giving, isn't it?
There are two ways of looking at this. It's a very cynical, I'm going to trick her and force her to stay with me and guilt her into staying. Or there's the, I'm so insecure and I think that she is only with me because she's too good of a person to leave me when I'm sick.
Either way, the fact that he does it, I think, is very unforgivable.
This is awful.
Making your partner, your wife, believe that you have still got cancer when it's completely gone.
Makes me feel sick.
That is really it. Whatever your suspicions about them, whatever your insecurities, I really don't think there's any excusing that.
Here's a question. What's worse, having an affair or lying about having cancer?
Oh, morally, the affair still in my head screams out to me, that's the wrong thing, that's infidelity, and this isn't. But they're really in a kind of almost both as bad as each other. What do you think? What would you say is worse?
I just think that the fear and the pain and the sadness of feeling that the person you love is dying is horrific beyond belief. I know, like, we both agree that cheating's the worst thing.
Yeah. And
it's unforgivable and it's a betrayal. But at least you know that if somebody cheats on you, you can leave them and you can go on and have a nice life. Like, if your partner dies of cancer, that's with you forever. Like, that's something awful that you will never get over, no matter how happy you are in the future.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know, I've never, neither thing has happened to me, but the thing I fear the most, probably because I know you'd never cheat on me, but I think you might die of cancer.
Oh, thanks for that.
It's more likely.
Probably is, to be fair, I'm going to say.
I hope they're both equally unlikely, but...
I wonder how long Kevin is planning to keep this up for, or is it just...
I don't think he's got any idea in his head.
You'd have to, but often when soap characters, usually for cliffhanger purposes, make a snap decision that comes out of the blue, they haven't really thought it too far.
I think maybe he thought to himself, I'm going to drive Carl away, and then when I'm in the clear, I'll just say, oh, they've checked it now again and it's fine.
I wonder how easy it is to keep up the ruse that you got cancer, because you'd have to think, I'm going to have to keep going off to places for appointments. You're going to have to...
well, you have to keep going to appointments.
Will he get medicine in the post or anything? Or
well,
I don't know how it works. Yeah, he's going to have to be tired.
I think I'll be good at that. I can't get out of bed. I've got cancer. And
then I don't know what other kind of follow-up things there are. It's a risky game, which Abby is clearly going to find out. I can't see it lasting longer than a week or two.
She'll be driven into Carl's arms because she'll say, I can't believe you would do this to me. And Carl will say, see, I told you.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely going to be the catalyst for her saying, screw you, Kevin, I'm going off with Carl. And maybe Carl's going to be the one that says, you see that guy? We'll see what he's done to you. I'd never do that to you. But at the end of the day, that's going to be the reason why she makes a break. And
do you reckon that this will happen?
I think it possibly will. And even it feels very out of character for Kevin to do it. I don't see him as this kind of duplicitous schemer.
I think he's out of ideas.
I think
this is all he could think of to do. Once he said it. The thing is, once he said it, that's no going back. Like, he has to wait a certain amount of time before he can say, oh, it's fine now.
This is one of those character decisions that you have to really try and think about justifying about, well, there could be a reason that he's done this. Because seriously, that doesn't fit with his usual behaviour to be this. Yeah, to trick his partner. Although, Molly, anybody, I suppose.
Yeah, I know. He ran around behind Sally's back for ages.
But then equally, you could say, well, that's not really like him as well. Look, he's been very much a loyal family man, apart from the few times when the story is dictated otherwise.
This is one of those big difficulties with characters on soaps, is that if you really like a character, or you want to go for some kind of consistency with the character, you either have to pick, do I think that the writers are making the character do something, or am I going to accept that some people just do weird things that you would never think? Like when Imran slept with Abby and had a baby, and we were like, would he do that? I don't know. I also just think about all the times when you've heard a true life story about somebody and they've said, I did this, it was completely out of character, I don't know why I did it. I think the trouble with it is that it often will make you think, well, I would never do that, so it's impossible that anyone else would.
See, the other thing with this as well is that Kevin's not just lying to Abby. He's going to have to keep this up with everybody. He's going to have to tell Rosie and Sophie, sorry girls, I've still got cancer.
Yeah, I don't think he's thought about that.
He's going to have... I'd really like to see some scenes with Sally, maybe, because they've not really lent too much into the fact that Sally had breast cancer 15 years ago, and now he's got it. But she's going to be devastated to hear that this hasn't worked, and he's got to go through more aggressive treatment. He says later, doesn't he? So it's going to have to be even worse.
It's horrific.
The reaction.
This is just horrific. For it. Honestly.
So it's really so. Yeah, it's short-sighted of him to think that this could possibly work, and there's going to be more than just Abby who's going to feel utterly lied to by this.
This isn't just... I mean, we had a silly story where somebody pretended to have cancer, and that was when Scylla was trying to raise money.
Well, that story's running in Classic at the moment. She does have cancer, but then she gets it sorted. She gets it operated on. Spoiler alert! But yeah, she pretends that. I suppose it is quite similar, isn't it?
But
once the cancer goes, once the treatment's worked, the character continues to make out that they're sick.
But obviously, you were not supposed to empathise with Scylla whatsoever, and she was doing it for monetary gain. So she was like malingering.
Yeah, she wanted to go on holiday and swim with the dolphins, if I remember right.
Yeah. Whereas Kevin is just targeting this to a very specific person. It's really funny, actually, because if I was Kevin, I would tell Abby and say, listen, I'm going to put up a front and pretend I've not got cancer because I don't want to upset everybody and I'm sick and tired of people feeling sorry for me. But just so you know, I have got cancer still and they're going to treat me, but can we keep it to get between the pair of us so that I don't upset everybody else? And that would be the worst thing.
That would be even
so
worse.
evil. But that's the way you get around like the moral dilemma of not telling your daughters that you...
I mean, when it happened with Scylla, it was almost a bit of a comedy storyline, wasn't it? And it's like, and that she was like making Les and Yana raise money for her by bathing in a bath of beans because she'd known that they'd had a one night stand together.
Can you imagine Kevin doing that to Carl and Abby?
But I think maybe if Kevin had known, that Abby and Carl had slept together, which they haven't, but if he'd known about it, I wouldn't feel so bad that he's doing this a part of some weird revenge story.
Have they ever...
But at the moment, it's just on a hunch, isn't it?
He's using it to keep her.
Yeah. This is a massive thing to do just because you've seen a few little clues this week and maybe a bit of a hug.
Have they actually kissed each other, or have they both just put their mouths very close?
I think it was that, because it was the scene in Number 13's lounge a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? I can't remember whether it was a kiss or not, but I mean... It doesn't really matter. It's like they both wanted to. They might as well have done it.
You might as well do it. They heard it from the horse's mouth.
If Kevin had found out about it, I think he would have treated it both the same.
Okay.
Anyway, despicable behaviour by Kevin.
We don't know at this point in the show whether Kevin has got the all clear or not, but Abby is fretting in the cafe, telling Roy that she's very worried. Kevin's not got back to her. She feels guilty. She wasn't there, and she's failing him. And she feels like she's bottling everything up, and Roy says you must tell him how you feel. So Abby goes back to the garage, and she says, I think she's talking to Carl here. Yeah, she's talking to Carl, and she says, right, listen, if it's good news, I'm going to talk to Kevin and tell him that we need to go on a break. Not because I want to be with you, Carl. I love Kevin, but I don't feel like I'm in love with him, and I don't want to hurt him.
It's a horrible admission from Abby. It's a natural thing to people, you hear about that all the time, but it's still heartbreaking, isn't it? And just imagine if how soon would she have done this as well? If he's going to come home celebrating, going, "Oh, I'm cancer free.
What would you do?
Let's go out to the bistro for a treat." She
hasn't even thought through. Like, she would be an absolute pariah on the street if Kevin said to everybody, "Yeah, I'm cancer free," and Abby dumped me because she's not in love with me anymore.
Yeah. I'd rather, as you've said, I'd rather have the cancer back, actually.
This is gross, really. And also, where's she going to live and where's she going to work? She's really relying on Kevin's good nature here to be like, oh yeah, carry on living with me, carry on working in like, she can't support herself, really.
Yeah.
She's still struggling with her. She was an addict. She has got stability. She's got a child. And I'm not saying that anyone should stay with a partner if they don't want to be with them, but she hasn't got a plan. What's her plan?
She'd be taking Alfie away from Kevin, who, by all intents and purposes, thinks of Alfie as his dad, and then also she'd be she'd be taking herself away from Jack as well.
Well, she's not actually said I'm going to move out. She's just gone, oh, I'm just going to break up with Kevin.
I think I would infer from that a move out would be happening.
You'd hope so.
Poor old Jack would be losing, the closest he's known to a mum.
And a brother.
Yeah.
Look, it's
what a mess.
Obviously that this happens many times for similar reasons in real life, but this is a soap. So she's just telling Carl this is like, oh my God. And also,
I just have always seen Abby as being a flawed but morally
but you would
righteous
say
person.
Yeah, but the thing is though, from her perspective, she's doing the right thing here because it would be much easier, like we've just pointed out, for her to stay with Kevin, even though she doesn't love him. This is the hard thing to do. This is the morally correct thing to do if you're not in love with somebody, rather than string them along. Well, go in peace. You don't need me anymore. This isn't working out.
Feels like it's happened so soon. And
what's made her
they got married very quickly as well, didn't they?
Do you think she's just thinking to herself, if I loved Kevin, I wouldn't be tempted by Carl? No. Or why has she come to this decision that she doesn't love Kevin just because Carl's sniffing around her? I don't understand where this has come from.
But it's a bit like when Tracy and Steve split up, isn't it? And they just out of nowhere had Tracy saying, "Oh, we've been arguing all this time."
But the thing is,
and the breakup between Tyrone and Fizz when he admitted that he fancied Alina. Still don't feel like we've seen enough of it.
Do you not think that whether or not you feel like you could, do you not think it is possible to love two people at once?
It's hard, isn't it?
Because I do. I think it is possible. And I think that it's funny to me that the writers have gone down the route of saying Abby just doesn't love Kevin anymore. Because I don't think that people cheat all the time because they don't love the person they're with.
Yeah.
I think that's a completely separate consideration to make. But something about what she's gotten up to with Carl has made her think, I actually do not like Kevin at all, which has kind of come out of nowhere.
Kevin doesn't give her the flutters the same way.
Do you agree with what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know what, I can't get into the mindset of it, but I'm trying my best. Anyway, while Carl hears this confession from Abby, he then tells her, okay, I will wait for you. You know, I think you're going to come to your senses and realise that I'm the guy you should be with, but until you realise that, I'll be waiting. And then when she goes off, he looks at the CCTV camera, and you pointed out to me that this camera doesn't have sound.
Yeah.
So what would the camera have picked up?
I don't think there was anything to pick up there, and it didn't get referred back to afterwards. In
Not
the
yet.
Episode, didn't it? So I don't know whether it was anything. I was going to say that I suppose one thing that Abby falling out of love with Kevin does have going for it is that lots of fans never really bought their romance anyway, did they?
Well, you're including yourself in that.
Yeah, I know. And they were a bit of a mismatch at the start, and it was like they got together for soap convenience because they needed to get together with somebody. But I will admit, it's not the right word. I will say that they're not an obvious couple, are they? The pair of them together, they don't look like they match. They don't feel like, though they've got cars in common, there's not a whole lot they're going to talk about that's going to be shared interest. Both quite diminutive.
I didn't even say anything
so
about that.
Maybe Abby is saying, this has made me realise that I've maybe never really loved him the way that I should love somebody, because she's always been, she's been very desperate and needy as a character, and her life has treated her so bad for the first 40 years or so that, well, did she just cling on to Kevin because he was the first person that came along that showed her a little bit of kindness?
If the show went down the route of saying that Abby was with Kevin as a matter of convenience, and she loved him, she thought she loved him, but really it was because she literally had no other options, I don't think anyone would go, that's a retcon.
No, you're right. I don't think they would.
And it doesn't particularly reflect well on Abby, but it also doesn't really reflect well on Kevin, because he is an older man, he has more experience in life, and he really could have worked out for himself that this beautiful young woman who's homeless might be with him for reasons that are not quite as romantic as he thought they were.
Yeah, it's just really sad when you look at like the life trajectories of Kevin and Sally, and how Sally has just kind of got it all at the moment,
I know,
hasn't
she's
she?
living a dream.
She's living on the posh side of the street. She's got a husband who, he's a bit of a dope, but totally dotes on her. She's got a very nicely decorated house and a lesbian Christian daughter. She's got a lovely duck egg blue front door. She was the mayor. She's been in prison, yes, but on the whole, she's got a pretty.
But I think that she probably thinks that's a really good chapter of her
helps her connect with the
she
with the lower class.
Listen, I've been inside, as we call it.
But and Kevin, to look at her every day, thinks, why did I go off with Natalie? And I know that after that he did get back together with Sally again, and then they had a few more years
really
together.
Perfect life, and I screwed it up. And now look at me.
Yeah. And what's he got? He's still in the same house that he moved into 35 years ago. He's got a wife that's maybe going off with someone. He doesn't feel like he's evolved in any way.
This is the trouble.
Whereas Sally is just up and up and up.
This is the real trouble about Coronation Street, is that people will have aspirations, but at the end of the day they've got to stay on the street if they want to be in the show. And it's really hard to... Yeah, I mean, there are loads of people. I suppose
Kevin hasn't had aspirations. He's not been yearning Hilda Ogden style for a better life. He's happy with his lot.
Maybe he's
he must sometimes look at Sally and go, "Why on
maybe
earth?
I should have wanted better for myself. Like, I've just been treading water."
Yeah, wouldn't have stopped him getting cancer, but
Well, maybe you shouldn't have been photocopying his balls all that time. I don't think that's how you get it, by the way. You shouldn't listen to podcasts about cancer. Especially not if they're about Coronation Street. Right, so Kevin's moping around to the pub, and Debbie comes and joins him, and he says, look, I'm really worried that Abby's going to leave me. And she's like, what are you talking about? She wouldn't do that. Look, how Ronnie's sticking with me even though I'm sick. I really love him. We've got a deep trust and a bond.
And it's got even better since the...
You know what I say? If you're ever worried about your partner leaving you, bruv, Kev, tell them you've got cancer if you don't. Because I'm just pretending to have dementia, to be honest with you.
At this point, he must have already decided that this is what he was going to do. And Debbie telling him this at this moment, saying, oh yeah, this has actually brought me and Ronnie closer together, and he's realised that it's had the opposite effect for me and Abby. I think it's just confirming his decision to go down this deceptive route.
I've just had a plan. So he goes home and he tells Abby, right, good news, bad news. The good news is it's not spread, but the bad news is it's not responded to treatment. And his quote is, I'm not in the clear, far from it. I'm going to need more aggressive chemo. Don't tell Jack. He says, don't tell Jack. It's too early to find out. So that's probably a clue about him not telling the girls.
I guess so, but...
but this was really interesting to me that
find out.
He's not going full evil on this, is he? He's not like, oh, they told me it's gone to my brain or anything. He's saying... It's kind of neutral here. Like, this could be bad. It's not great. It's not good. It's not bad. It's like, this is prolonged.
Yeah.
So he could have been worse. He could have been worse. But he really should.
Sorry.
He really should have told her the truth.
Yeah, totally.
Right. So Ronnie goes and sits with Debbie in the pub, and she says, "I want to get back to how we used to be." And he says, "Yeah, we will. But you need to tell me, if you need support, I will help you." And they say, oh, we love each other, and they kiss each other. And then Kevin and Abby end up in speed dial, and Dr. Gaddis comes in.
Hooray!
Love this. So
months have gone by since we last saw Gaddis, and she said, oh, I got booking for Sue Gaddis, so she goes by Sue,
and she comes and goes, oh,
and she's off duty.
Kevin, I'm so pleased to hear that the cancer's gone, hooray. And Kevin says, shut up. Shut up, don't tell everybody. He says, yeah, that's great news, but please can you not tell anybody and keep it quiet? He says something like, I want it to be a surprise. I want to tell. And she's like, oh yeah, okay.
I'm not being in with your secret. Am I in your story now, Kevin?
I mean, it must be really awkward because you can't go up and say things like that, but it must be such a natural reaction if you're a GP. Not that we seem to get those anymore, that actually your GP that you see your whole life, like you used to when I was a kid, who actually knows who you are. But like going up to them and going, oh, fantastic news, Websters, I'm so happy for your family.
Yeah.
Like you can't do that.
No.
But so Dr. Gaddis knows. I don't think this is going to come up. I think this is more just demonstrating how he's going to field. Like it's not going to be as easy as he thought it was.
I would love for this to be the beginning of a little flurry of episodes for Gaddis, because it felt like on its own she was on screen for 20 seconds or so.
I know.
And they're really getting Christine Mackie in just for that, because that's poor.
I can't imagine her going in to sort of see, maybe Abby going in to kind of get, a check-up about how she's doing with her addiction issues and if she needs any support or anything. And she's like, it's obviously difficult because of Kevin, and like Dr. Gaddis is like,
yeah, I mean, maybe that's how she might find out.
No, I don't. I think Dr. Gaddis would... What would you do if you're a doctor? You can be so easily tricked if you're a doctor. If somebody comes up to you and says, oh yeah, the whole problem with my husband, and you're like, your husband's fine. Like, what do you mean? Wouldn't it be such a natural thing to say?
If this was left until like the next filming block, possibly, and Abby's going to see Dr. Gaddis, that's enough time when Gaddis would have... Surely Kevin would have told her by now. So if Abby mentioned something to her, it'd be really hard not to give a bit of an eyebrow raise. She'd have to be biting her tongue. There'd be something where Abby notices a little glint in her eye and go, what?
Yeah, maybe.
And all Gaddis would be able to say, I don't think she would blurt out, say, but he's cured. She'd have to say, I think you need to speak to him.
Yeah.
And that's maybe how it will start to unravel.
I don't know. I just did like to see Dr. Gaddis around.
Yeah. Overall thoughts on this story this week?
I think we've talked about it, haven't we?
Yeah, but I mean, are you liking the direction it's going? Would it keep you interested enough? I think for me, it's the same old with the affair. Just get on with it. But I as much as I don't like what Kevin has done, it had made me go, ooh, when we found out that that's what he had.
What will happen now?
It was a bit of a sting in the tail and a twist.
It's an interesting development.
It's kind of made me interested in what's going to happen next, which I can't say that I had for this story up until this point. So I suppose it's done a good job for keeping me hooked.
There you go. Right, gingerbread man.
No, gingerbread man.
He's
not making bread. Maria knows that there's something suspicious going on, but she's still trying to keep up the pretense to... Was it Ed at the beginning?
Well, Ed is trying to hold the fort down in the business, and he can't commit to anything because he doesn't know when Gary's back. So he's on the phone and he's like, Maria, when is Gary coming? And she's like, well, tomorrow, because it's Liam Connor Jr.'s birthday. And of course, Gary would never miss that. His many children, he's all there for all of their milestones, etc. So we've also... This is the aftermath, like you said, of the drugs party problem storyline, because Summer's chatting with Ardy in the street and says that I didn't tell the police about what happened. I'm mad about Nina. I don't understand why she dropped me in it. And Ardy says that maybe we should just make up with her. So they go to the cafe together, and Nina's a bit awkward when she sees Summer and says, I'm really sorry, I didn't talk to you about before I went to the police, but I couldn't live with myself if I'd stayed quiet. And Ardy says, can you cover the shop for me today, because I've got somewhere I need to be. So she agrees to cover him so he can go to the hospital just in time to find Lauren crying.
He's loitering around there all like a bad smell, isn't he, this week?
He just loves blondes.
He has, he's got a real thing. I don't know whether he cares one way or another about Lauren, but he's just mega guilty, isn't he? And he's just trying to make himself...
Well, he's obviously the reason that Lauren's in hospital. And she's crying because she misses Frankie. And she says, I could kill whoever put me in here, but I don't blame you for it, Ardy. And he says, well, it might be my fault. It was my party. And she says, no, it's not your fault. But what did you want to talk to me about? And he says, nothing.
Yes.
Okay. So he goes and comes back again later and says, listen, I was going to say something actually, but it's not what we all think. It's that he tells her, I want to help you and give you a loan, because I don't like seeing you struggle. And she says, wow, amazing. Thank you.
She's just going to be even more betrayed when the truth comes out.
I can't remember what she needs a loan for now, but she's trying to move out with a kid, isn't she? And because she can't work because she's in hospital. And obviously, if you've got
you can't pull no points in the hospital bed.
No, obviously Glenda's not really got a sick pay sorted out properly over there. So on Wednesday, it's Liam's birthday, and Gary's still in a coma.
I can't remember when Liam's birthday canonically is. I think maybe it's the 1st of July, because obviously my birthday is the same as Leanne, and I don't think Liam's the same day.
No. Well, you would have remembered if you'd watched him get born on your birthday, wouldn't you?
But he's 16 this year, is Liam.
Ah, Kurt gets him a Weather County top.
Oh, he has got Connor on the back spelt ER, isn't it? So what more can you say other than
thank you,
classic Kirk?
So Maria comes into the cafe later, and Sarah's there and asks her if everything's all right with Gary. And Maria realises that David's been talking about this and says that mind your own business. Then we get Ardy, who is not happy that Brody is staying, because this was one of the other things that came out of the drugs party, is that Brody has been allowed by Bernie to stay at Dev's house at the same time as the twins are living there. And Ardy's not happy about this, and I don't think I would be either, because Brody is living in their house with them.
I know Ardy's old enough to maybe start thinking about moving out at some point, but it's still his family home. And to have this woman come in that is just his dad's girlfriend and move in somebody who is his kind of bit of an enemy, I would also have things to say about that.
I have to say that knowing what I know about Dev, I do not think that he would want his children. He's so protective of the twins. I think he would take their side over.
Yeah, I wonder what Dev's reaction to Brody's going to be when he gets back.
I don't know what will happen in the show. I think it's equally likely that they will write him either way, depending on which is more convenient. But as for the Dev I know would I think sling.
Well, I'm thinking of what Dev had to say about Corey, for example. He just doesn't like...
He's going to see that this is the same kid.
Yeah. But it's interesting because Bernie, we know, has been on the phone to Dev lots while he's been away in India.
Has she mentioned this? Has she mentioned
this? I imagine that he's been brought up because she's got nothing to hide there, but she's probably painting a much more pleasant picture of this poor child, this poor abused child. So Dev's going to arrive expecting one thing, but what he actually gets, yeah.
So, yeah, Ardy's not happy about it, and Bernie says, you know, why don't you help around the house, Brody, to make yourself more likeable and get in touch with Lou? But Brody says that she's dead to him. Also, Brody's going on people's games consoles and overwriting their save files, which is unforgivable.
No, yes, Gemma, it is, isn't it?
It is
Gemma's
unforgivable.
done that once to me. Accidentally.
I would never do it again, though, will I?
You will never do that again.
You know that I don't even play games that you play now. I'd rather not.
It doesn't even work that way with saves, so I don't know how Brody actually overwrote his file, but anyway.
So, he's really mad, and he's like coming up with all these petty things, like, don't eat my Viennese whirls, blah, blah, blah. Bernie comes in with Lou to try to get them to make up, but as she comes in, Lou has this phone that's ringing, and Brody doesn't recognise the ringtone, and she tells him it's her work phone. Which
Audrey's got
any sense at all, because
very generous mobile phone package as part of her.
Yeah.
So I mean,
everybody thinks this is Gary's
It's phone. Clearly, at this point, it's clearly obviously, and I can't remember what we said last week on the podcast about whether we suspected it was Lou or whether we thought it was Brody on his own that had done this or some mysterious third party. But as soon as we saw her with that phone, it's like, oh, well, that's Gary's then, isn't it? But I've still seen a few people online saying, oh, I wonder if. I just don't feel to me like there's any wondering ifs about it. It was seemingly written as a, here you go, viewers. Did you get that?
If you haven't worked it out already, here you go.
Yeah.
Here you go, thickos.
Because it comes in again later, doesn't it? Because you have the nurses wanting to phone Gary's next of kin, and then Lou gets a phone call saying, oh, I need to go off somewhere. So it seems to me it's clearly her.
It's so funny, though. Can I just tell you, like, I am dumb, and I do admit, never pretended to be smart in my life. But I did not realise this was what... Even though I was like, yeah, I think that Lou knows that Gary's in there, and she's the one who probably was behind what happened to him. When she's walking around with this phone and getting all these mysterious phone calls and stuff, all these clues building up, I was like...
Were you really?
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Oh, okay.
What's next?
That seemed obvious to me.
I know. It is obvious.
Now you know.
But
so what does this mean then for what happened to Gary? Did Lou attack him? Did Brody attack him?
Brody clearly... I don't think Brody knows. Do you think Brody's involved?
Maybe.
Why would Brody not keep his mum closer if he knew that she knew that he was up to something?
I can't see Lou...
dobbing him in.
No, I can say I can't see Lou attacking Gary unless she was well armed. I mean, it could... He did have that bit of wood, didn't he? Last week.
If she thought she was protecting her son, I think she would go for him. I would imagine... I mean, we make jokes about Gary being crap at fighting, but I would imagine that she would have had to have been quite lucky to best him in combat.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me sad if it was her, because I really like her, and I know she's not spotless, she's not whiter than white, is she? But she's, again, a bit of a victim herself. Like, totally a victim of domestic abuse, and then to have her say, well, she's actually put Gary in a coma.
I think...
it's just a bit of a shame, a bit of a blotch on her record for me.
It's a bit of a blotch on the record, isn't it? I wonder... I mean, what are their names, the girls? Joni and
the other one.
Shanice.
Yes.
When they were being fostered by Tim and Sally, we were going... okay, well, how is this going to work out for the long term, considering that Lou is a main character? Because it really seems obvious to me that Sally and Tim are gonna foster these kids. Then obviously they went back with their mum, and that storyline moved on a little bit. But if Lou gets in trouble and gets put in prison for attacking Gary, it just does feel like Shanice and Joni are going to end up
them together.
It would. I tell you what, and I'm not being horrible about these two little girls because we don't know anything about them, but I would be kind of annoyed if at the end of this, instead of having Mick and Lou, we had Shanice and Joni, because I genuinely don't know these people.
Well, they haven't,
and I'd rather have Lou.
They've not really attempted that much so far to give them that a whole load of personality,
no,
have they? Which is another.
We had a
does account against them staying on. So
they had a sad, little mini story where they, Tim and Sally realised that they didn't like fighting because they were so sensitive. I don't care about children characters, and I don't think that
I'd definitely rather keep Lou rather than anybody.
Yeah.
So what, are we saying what happened was that either Lou attacked Gary or Brody attacked Gary and Lou's covering for him.
And rescued him.
Possibly. Although the fact that he doesn't know about that phone means that he's definitely in the dark about something. So maybe you're right, he doesn't know anything. But why did she keep his phone, and how did he get to hospital?
Why is she keeping it quiet? She knows that he's in there. How long does she think that she can keep this quiet?
She must know he's in there because, we're making a few assumptions here, but they were spelled out quite clearly to us. The hospital think that Gary's phone belongs to Lou, who is his next of kin. So if Lou took Gary into hospital, but at some point between him getting attacked and being taken into hospital, he was staggering about the back streets, lunging at Nina and Summer in his dazed state. Mm-hmm. So did Lou attack him, run away? He then encounters Summer and Nina. Then he collapses somewhere. Lou finds him.
Maybe they hit him and they think they finished him off, but actually... So he was hit by Lou.
No, they don't think that they finished him off because they know that he wasn't there the next day.
Listen. Lou attacked Gary. Gary staggers about. Nina and Summer get involved with him and they whack him, and they're the one that put him in the coma. Lou finds him and thinks, oh God, I put him in a coma. I better ship him to hospital.
From what Nina and Summer have said, that I remember at least, I thought that Nina and Summer just saying that they found Gary.
No, that's not what happened. Nina said that he lunged at them and then they hit him.
Okay. Oh, yes, they did. They said that they heard his head crack on the ground, didn't they? You're right.
So I think he was worse for wear with an altercation between... Or maybe it was just Brody versus Gary. Brody whacked him. Gary's stumbling. He finds Nina and Summer off their heads. He goes, help me, to them. They whack him. He hits his head. Lou finds him and goes, oh God, what has Brody done this time? Takes him to hospital under a fake name to see whether he's going to remember at all and like worry about that later and take his phone. That
could work.
So he must be under a fake name in the hospital.
I suppose so.
Otherwise, they would know that Gary's in hospital.
Yeah. Interesting.
What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I suppose
the only extra bit is, did Brody confess to his mum, I've just left Gary really worse for wear, and then she's like, don't worry, I'll go and find him, I'll go and sort it.
Or did she just
happen to bump into him,
and
as
assume.
people do? Yeah.
And then there'll be like a funny scene where they're like, I thought you killed him, I thought you did, what are we like? Who knows?
I guess we'll find out soon.
I think we're going to get a pretty comprehensive flashback that will clear this all up.
It might have a bit of wobbly cam to it, but I think we'll know.
Right, so it's Liam's birthday, and Maria's having to explain to Gemma, Jenny and Sarah in the pub that, Gary's not bothered to even text Liam, and she can't understand what's going on.
I would say, does Gary not have it on his phone in his calendar so that Lou would have seen a notification saying Liam's birthday?
No, because he's so great he remembers.
Okay, well that solves that. I suppose I don't have that for your birthday either.
No, I know when yours is because you keep going on about it.
As if you don't.
Maybe there's a podcast that they listen to that tells them when people's birthdays are and they've stopped doing it. Right, so there's a birthday.
Yeah, can you imagine? Lou actually listens to Conversation Street, but we couldn't say it was Gary's birthday, so...
Well, we don't do fictional characters'
birthdays.
Oh, no,
you're right, you don't.
Because they don't all have them.
No.
Right, so it's the kid, what's his name? Liam's birthday tea in Speed Dial, and Maria's kind of left an empty chair for Gary because she thinks he's going to turn up. But meanwhile, he's having a bit of a turn in the hospital, and his eyes are... his machine's beeping worryingly, and the doctors are going, oh, there's Papadopoulos.
Papilledema as he's got.
They're going to have to send him to theatre because it's all gone wrong.
It's when you got a swelling at the back of your eye because of the optic nerve is pushing on it too hard or something like that. I think it's
great. He's thinking too hard. He's thinking too hard. Send him to theatre. He wants to do panto.
Tell you what,
I didn't know his contract was up. I thought he was in it for the rest of the year. Is he leaving?
They were a bit of a TV burp stars of Tomorrow Today, those two, weren't they?
Well, there's lots of like different medical staff. I don't know why can't they be the new Dr. Gallas or Lisa Swain?
I think that they should have thrown in a few lines about how understaffed they are at the hospital.
We don't have time to send them to theatre. We haven't got any staff. Let's just, what do they used to do in Egypt? It's just, can we give him what they called? Lobotomy. Let's give him a lobotomy.
Give him a bit of trephining.
Yeah.
Couldn't they? They could
just
drill into his skull. Let out the evil spirits.
Oh, I'll tell you what, there have been days this week where I quite happily have cracked my skull open to just try and get a bit of air in there.
I think that the ghost of Rana would come out of it if they cracked open Gary's skull. Like, it was him, he dropped the roof on me.
Maybe she'd go in there and possess him.
Yeah, maybe.
That's just an idea.
Stranger things have happened on Dallas.
Why not? Okay, so Lou tells Brody about his birth and conception, and she's finally admitting to him that, yes, Mick is not his dad and it is actually Kit. And she says that you were a gift that came from a mistake. And Brody is not like, he doesn't realise he's in a soap at all. And he's upset about it. It's like, no, Brody, you're just supposed to accept it and like realise that it just is character development. He also admits he misses the girls, and he ends up agreeing to go back home with Lou and
for his sisters, though, not for her.
Yeah.
They're definitely softening Brody now, aren't they? Now that he's out of prison. I know he's still a bit of a scally, but
I'm not interested.
I'm not particularly interested in there being a redemption arc.
I mean, they did so well with Mason. They will be able to win me over if they really want to. But I'm just.
I'm not there yet. But I'm accepting that at some point I might really like Brody. I mean, he's a good actor, isn't he? He got those awards for what he did on Hollyoaks.
He's either going to be a Mason or a Corey. He's either going to be a goodie or a baddie.
It felt from that scene that they were going down more of they're going to redeem him route. It's just as odd how soon it is to Mason.
I know. Right, so we get more drama in the hospital because they're going to have to scoop out his blood from his eyeballs, and they decide to contact the next of kin. Then we cut to Maria getting her phone call, but it was a fake out. It's not the hospital. It's Anna saying, oh, well, Gary should be with you because he said he was going straight home. Maybe you should call the police. Then Lou gets a phone call and she's like, oh, yeah, sorry, I just need to go and take this somewhere private. So yeah, the inference there is that she's getting this next of kin call about the eyeball scooping.
Yeah, like I say, it's not particularly subtly, so I think they clearly want us to know it's her.
Yeah, and Lou finds out from Ardy and Bernie that Brody is going to move out, and she assumes, I guess, that he's going to move in with her, which I thought we'd already cleared up. But...
Do you remember the days when characters used to go into a hospital and you might be genuinely worried that they might not make it?
Yeah.
Like, he'll be fine, won't he?
It's a really interesting... it's a really interesting new world for Coronation Street because their spoilers are just so easily disseminated, and it's getting,
You get the occasional surprise, but I don't think there's anybody really thinking, oh, this could be the end for Gary.
It's tough. We've spoken about spoilers before, but...
It's funny because like on almost every other medium in a drama, if a character goes into hospital, it could be that they don't come out again. When we were watching Game of Thrones, for example, if somebody was looking a bit worse for wear, they probably are going to be dead, but they're not necessarily. Or any other short drama, people could end up in hospital and die. But in Corrie, it's like, they'll be fine. And
one thing that I find really interesting is that as a fan base, as a fandom, soap fans are far more interested and share more freely, I think, spoilers than other groups, because I think that if I was on a Game of Thrones forum, I wouldn't know what had happened until I got to the episode. Like, the episode airs in America, I know, don't go on that forum because everyone's going to be talking about what happened. But up until that point, most people don't share information, and they certainly don't release it. Like, you'll never guess what Jon Snow gets up to in this episode. But there is information to glean. Like, there will be credits and IMDb things and stuff that you could work out, and the on-set things that Michael's just pouring water.
Sorry, I'm just pouring myself a glass of water.
If you need the toilet, this is your clue. You should probably go now. There will be like, this behind the scenes filming reveals that this character isn't in this episode you'd think they would be in. But like, soaps are encouraged by the companies that make soaps, and also the soap magazines and all of the journalists and soap websites, to just talk about things that haven't happened yet all of the time. Far more. And I know that spoilers happen for every single show. I'm not stupid. I know that you could find this out if you really wanted to, but I just think it's more a part of the narrative of a soap than it is any other television show. Yeah. And it's really difficult to navigate as a soap. What do you do about that? Because these people are your fans, and they want to talk about things that haven't happened yet, and they want to speculate and guess, and they're ravenous, and they will look for information anywhere. And I know that soaps facilitate it to a certain extent, because they, tell Paps where to go, and there will be clues and spoiler pictures and contract updates, and they don't tell that there's no soap star that's under an NDA to like not reveal when they're up on contract. So. Well, some of them do, but it's not like a general practice that you're not allowed to talk about where you are. Don't tell anyone you're on holiday. No. It's because it's such a huge deal, isn't it? Such a big.
Yeah. Oh well.
So, but we know Gary's fine.
We know Gary's going to be fine.
I guess.
I genuinely hope he is, because
what if he ends up
he's been a bit boring in the past, but I do like Gary.
I really like Gary. I do.
But equally, if they decided to pull the rug under us and have him flatlining next Thursday, then I'd say, well done, Corey, you kept that one secret, and I just do it the same with everything else.
Mills and Buffoon, my favourite duo. On Monday, Theo prepared a very fancy buffet breakfast with crudités and etc. for Todd, and he only sets the table for him and Todd, even though his daughter is supposedly pregnant and living with them. You'd think that you would have at least made her a plate, but she comes down and there's nowhere for her to sit, and so eventually she ends up eating, I think, Theo's breakfast. I don't remember, but she comes down and she says, "Sorry to interrupt your romantic breakfast, but Mum's booking this trip that we've been talking about for months to go to Tenerife. You're coming."
Tenerife, we call it on this fandom.
Of course. And she says, you are coming, aren't you, Dad? And he's like, "Oh, probably not, love." And Todd then, somehow, between the last episode and this episode, he's realised from his conversation with Millie and the fact that she was drinking in the park that she is not pregnant.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression last week
I didn't get that
he had twigged, no.
But he has. His little brain.
So I was just a bit confused during these scenes. Like, I was thinking, we were saying to each other, like, have you forgotten something? Does he know? Has he told her?
So Todd's like, "Oh,
he's a smart cookie.
You're going on holiday to Tenerife? Are you sure you'll be able to fly in August? Aren't you worried about morning sickness? Wouldn't you like to take another pregnancy test just to see if you really are pregnant?" And she's kind of looking at him like, "Don't push me." Then Theo phones up Danielle, Millie's mum, to talk about what's going on, and he comes back and says to her, "Look, we need to go to school and explain to them why you're not in school, because you've been missing it all the time." And Millie says, "Oh, I can't because I'm sick." So Todd takes Millie to the cafe and they have a chat, and he says, "Look, I'm sorry, but he says..."
Yeah, cards on the table.
He says, "You and I know that you are not, and never have been, a marine biologist. I mean, pregnant." And tells her, like, "You need to tell your dad, you need to come out. You've been telling a pack of lies." And she says, "Look, okay, yeah, I have been lying, but I just panicked. Please don't tell my mum and dad or I'm going to run away.
I thought that this little bit of deception would be going on a lot longer than this.
This girl, I love her. She's my favourite. She's my favourite character. She's like... She's like closest thing we've got to a female villain on Coronation Street at the moment.
She's their definite. She's definitely got Agent of Chaos vibes. She is. So and she's like, whatever happens, even if things don't go her way, she finds a way of turning it back on Todd. Whether
it works or not, I don't think she really cares, does she? Because I think at the end of the day, she knows that she's always going to be Theo's daughter, and Todd may or may not be there in 5 years' time, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, she says, look, don't tell anybody or I'll run away. I'll do a test and I'll just say it was a false alarm. And he says, okay, I will help you, but only if you stop trying to come between me and your dad. Like, please stop.
I think she even tricked me at this point. I thought, okay, this is the moment where she comes to accept Theo and Todd. But no.
It's too easy. I thought it was too easy.
I was like, yes, but go on, Millie.
There were a lot, I thought this was a lot of twists in this scene, in this story this week, which is quite fun. Because Theo comes back to number 11 and Millie's on the stairs crying, going, I need to tell you something. And then the next time we see them, Todd comes home and Theo has a go at him going, oh my God, Millie's told me that you took her to have an abortion. And Todd's like, what are you talking about? No, I didn't do that.
That was great. That was so good.
And Todd's like, no. And then Theo says, well, Millie wouldn't lie about something like that. And Todd's like, well, I wouldn't either. So Theo and Millie pack to leave and go back to, the family home. And Todd's like, Millie, please tell your dad the truth. And he brings out this receipt for a pregnancy test going, look, why would I have got her pregnancy test and an abortion? It doesn't make any sense. And then Theo says, I don't need to see that because I know Millie is lying.
That was weird.
This doesn't really make any sense.
No.
Doesn't really
looked like he was actually...
Why did he have a fight with Todd about it then?
Because he's a vile abuser. Like, was he keeping on
Has he only just worked it out at this point? Or did he know all along and he was just trying to... What was he up to?
It was hard. He didn't kind of give the look to say, hang on a minute, I've just put 2 and 2 together here, or the veil has been lifted from my eyes. It felt like he knew it all along.
Yes, it did.
Yet still, he was making his boyfriend think that he was leaving him. Was he just giving Millie a chance to come clean about it? Maybe. I don't know, but it's still weird. A bit of a...
It was weird.
A bit of a harsh thing for Theo to do to...
He says, I know that Millie's lying. We're going home and we're going to tell Danielle the truth. And we can talk about it later, me and you, Todd.
Yeah, and Todd says, yeah, do what you want, man. Todd's getting a little bit fed up of this now.
About time.
For the time being, it doesn't last long, does it?
So they walk down the street and Millie says, look, Dad, the reason I did it is that I want things to go back to the way they were with us and you and Mum. And Theo says, I do not love your mum like that anymore, but I do love Todd. Oh, this is just moving too far. Like, honestly, this is just moving too fast.
You think?
Theo and Todd, to chuck your whole family away.
Oh, that bit, yeah. Yeah, I think so.
And get your kid to accept in such a short amount of space that not only are you done with their mum, but you're moving on. You shouldn't really be introducing your kids to your new partner for months anyway. That's what I read. Like, well,
they did have a bit of a...
don't...
Yeah, but Todd and Millie did meet accidentally, didn't they, when they turned up at the Undertakers?
I know, but look, can we all agree this is just bad news all around, right? No, I'm not offending anybody.
There's no good that can come out of this.
I can't believe I would offend anybody by saying this is just not a great situation. So then we get to see Billy seeing Theo. For some reason, Theo's like dumped Millie off. And now he's back in...
He's in the shop, isn't he? Yeah.
Buying some plonk, isn't he? Yeah, to give to Todd to apologise to him for lying that he thought he gave his daughter an abortion.
So.
And he's got his elastic band and he's flicking it.
This is the first time that we've seen it, isn't it?
No, he's been picking himself before.
Has he?
Yes.
I totally missed that.
We had this conversation before about him self-harming. Yes, we have.
Oh, wow. I thought that was new this week.
No.
That would completely dropped out.
He's self-harming. He was picking at himself before and now he's flicking.
Yeah, I knew that there had been the mention of him self-harming before, but I didn't know whether we'd seen the actual elastic band.
We saw that... We haven't seen the band, but we've seen Todd, gripping his hand going, stop doing that.
Oh.
So Billy says to him, are you okay? I've seen people with that before, and, you know, I think I know what it means. And Theo says, no, it's just to stop my thoughts from racing. And Billy says that you and Todd deserve a bit of happiness. Then we get to see James and Todd, who've just been having a workout session. Oh no, they're just chatting, aren't they? And James says, I'll give you a free session. And then it ends up being a bit steamy with James moving in on him. Like, this is an exercise. It's called Kiss Me, I'm Delicious. And Todd doesn't really want to play that game because he says he loves Theo.
Yeah, because James, it does get a bit raunchy, doesn't it? Like, he's got his arms in the air.
He makes Todd put his arms up and then he's like gripping him.
See, I don't see, and I very much see current James as being a different beast to old James. I don't see old James being quite so forward.
Well, he was very forward, wasn't he?
Yeah, I know exactly. And James says, doesn't to me seem in character for him. He was a lot
very
more
confident,
passive.
Very confident.
Todd would be the more, predatory is not the right word, a more bold one in a relationship, I would say.
Yeah. James says, sorry, my head's all over the place, so much is going on.
I also don't see James really being that interested in Todd. And it feels like it's just a case of, well, there's only so many gay characters in the street, so I guess you'll be the one that I'm going to be fancying.
Well, the same is true for the straight single characters these days.
There's a bit more of a pool there, though, isn't there?
Yeah, a little bit. But there's not very many eligible bachelors, are there?
No, that's true.
Because they're all gay and they're all hugging each other and having special one-on-one sessions. So James panics and says, sorry, everything's, going on in my head. And Todd says, look, everything's going to get better soon. Gives him a hug. And obviously this is the point where Theo walks in and finds them. And Todd explains that James was just upset about Danny. And Theo's like, okay, all right. I think James is scurried off at this point. And so Theo gives him this bottle of wine that he's bought as a peace offering. And says, I should apologise for earlier, but what was James doing in here? And Todd says, well, we were in the pub talking earlier, I was mad at you, and James did try to kiss me, but I didn't kiss him back. And Theo says, well, we've both messed up today. Why don't I keep Millie away from you, and you keep away from James? And Todd kind of looks like, okay, but he also looks a bit disappointed, or is he thinking to himself, this seems out of order, or what?
No,
is he thinking I would miss James's company?
I think that we're supposed to think that he actually was quite flattered by this hunky footballer coming on to him, and there is a lot of baggage that comes with Theo. So it's the kind of look that Abby gives when she's kind of says to herself, "Oh no, Carl, I really mustn't spend any more time with you." It's like, oh yeah, but I quite like to.
But I quite like it.
Again, I don't see James being Todd's type either, but plot dictates that they do fancy each other now.
The pool's very shallow.
And the end of Monday's episode was great with Theo, wasn't it? That was brilliant.
Theo's kind of making out like, hey, no worries. Look, we're all just made mistakes today. I love and respect you. And
here's a narrow pool.
Look, let's just have our Shiraz and have a nice evening. Don't worry about it. And the next thing you see, he goes up to see James, and he knocks on his door, and James opens the door, and he's like being all friendly, like, oh, hey up, how you doing? Just so you know, if you ever do anything like that with Todd again, we'll be exchanging more than words. And off he goes.
That was so close.
I thought he was going to be really more sinister than this.
It was.
He's got a lot of plausible.
Somewhat sinister.
It was threatening.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as bad as I thought he was going to rearrange his face, to be honest.
I wondered that as well. I did wonder. But it was so close to being... Yes, Theo is definitely a villain, because we've been saying for weeks now, so have other people, that he's a real... quite despicable guy. I'm reading the forums and the subreddit and everything. People don't seem to be that hot on Theo in the slightest. And I thought this would be the moment where Corey is saying, you're right.
Yeah, the mask will slip.
But that you could still see that and have him still be innocent, couldn't you? And just being a bit defensive of his new boyfriend. I really, really wanted for him to step over the line and go into villain territory, but... hopefully that's still to come. He's still
skirting around it. It's really interesting. So on Wednesday, it looks like Theo has struck a deal with Todd where he doesn't get to hang out with James, but they do still exercise with each other. So they're going for a walkout session, and they decide to have a plank challenge.
Yeah, they have a plank off, don't they, in the living room?
Yeah.
Because Todd runs through all the exercises and sports that he can't do, but he says, I am a bit of a champion planker. Well, I think we know the biggest planker in that relationship is most definitely Theo, and that's proved when they get down on the floor. Yeah.
Todd then, when Theo goes upstairs victorious, Todd...
Well, you missed the fact that George comes in, doesn't he? Doesn't he interrupt their planking session?
George is there.
Yeah.
And Todd says, when Theo goes upstairs, can you not mention James because it's a bit of a sore subject? So if you're going to go down the route of domestic violence or, abuse or whatever, this is how it starts, isn't it? Like, don't make waves, don't upset him, don't bring this up. He can't handle it.
I can't remember what it was that George said.
But anyway, George comes back again later and interrupts Theo and Todd, like, relaxing in whatever way they want to. And he is settling down to watch a bit of telly, and it looks like he's going to be there all evening. Starts snoring, and it's a bit awkward. And so Theo then suggests to Todd that they should get their own place and move in together. And Todd's a bit reluctant because he thinks it's a bit soon, but he says, yeah, why not?
It's definitely too soon. But I'm not adverse to the idea if it means that we're going down the domestic abuse route. Although, in real life, I would say, Todd, you need to get rid of George. He's got another house. I know that Glenda's got it.
Of your mum's house.
George doesn't... It's hard because it's kind of his home, but the reason that it's his home is now living over in Thailand.
Yeah, not many people would carry on living in the house of that ex-girlfriend.
You'd think that George might...
Take a hint and go.
Well, no, you'd think that George might not even need a hint. You'd think that he might say, I suppose I'd better move then, hadn't I?
I was living here was because I was going out with your mum.
Well, no, he knows that he's going to be imposing on this guy, but equally Todd is... nice enough that he would probably say, oh, no, I know
what's happened. This is like when you sit on a train, right, or a bus, and you come in and there are no spare seats, so you have to sit next to somebody who's already on a double, right, by themselves, and you sit next to them and you know that they don't want you to sit there. And then when a spare seat comes up and you can sit by yourself, you're feeling awkward. Like, if I get up and I move to a different seat, is that really rude? But equally, I know the person next to me wishes I would just get up and go somewhere else and sit there. Yeah. But I don't want to reject them.
Nice analogy.
Thank you.
I like the visual of snoozing George underneath the massive portrait of Archie above him.
Yeah, and Archie's like going...
Yeah. Did you, something that I just kind of came to me was that there was the scene where Summer and Millie meet each other earlier in the week. I can't remember whether it was Monday or Friday's episode. And Todd tells Millie, that's my daughter, Summer. And I don't know whether off screen Todd had already talked about having a daughter, but in my head, I know that he's one of the 3 gay dads, but I don't consider Summer to be Todd's daughter.
No.
Do you?
No.
He's the person that was going out with her dad at some point, and he's been very paternal to her. But I think that saying, yes, Summer's my daughter...
obviously considers that... They consider that to be the correct way to refer to each other, which is completely fine. But yeah, if you were to say to me, how many kids does Todd have, I'd say... None. He doesn't have any living children.
No, exactly. But Millie didn't really bat an eyelid.
No, I think this was significant because I think Millie's going to use Summer to get to Todd now.
Yeah, probably. But I would have just thought that there would be some kind of reaction. Like, you never said you had a daughter.
She just hasn't thought of how to use this. She's going to use this against him.
Yeah.
She will. There was a reason to put that in there, and that was why.
Okay. So should we do the Secret Service storyline? I'm still finding this fascinating, and I think we said on the short that we can both see Dee-Dee and James's point of view on here, but I don't think there's nobody's going to say that Dee-Dee's in the right with this, is she?
No,
clearly not.
Everyone can agree that even if you really think that you'd go to hell if you weren't christened, you could still say you shouldn't be christening other people's kids.
She's just moving to it quite quickly as well. I know that he's put his foot down, and so she might think, well, what's the point in trying to convince him? Clearly, it'd be a fool's errand. But
it is really interesting that they are kind of they're putting this in quite a palatable package for people that aren't religious, which is, the vast majority of the people watching this are not going to be Christian. But from the point of view that if Dee-Dee really does think sincerely, and I don't have any reason why she wouldn't think this, that Laila, if she were to die before being christened, she might go to hell. Purgatory. Children's limbo, as we learned from the others. Why on earth would you not get this done? This seems a bit like putting your seatbelt on when you're going in a car ride.
It feels to me that it's going a bit 0 to 60 in 2 episodes.
But you see what I'm saying? My point is that they're not like... I totally understand, not that I can get inside your head, but I can totally understand why if you're a Christian, you would say, no, it's more important than life and death. This is something that has to happen. I have to have my child christened, right? But what she's saying in the show, Dee-Dee is saying, is it's a community I'm part of, and I want to welcome her into it because it has been of great comfort to me, and I think that it would be beneficial to her as she grows. That's a completely different argument. I know that both of those are what Dee-Dee thinks, but really the most pressing one is the whole, she has to be christened.
Yeah, but not lots of people would christen their children.
Yes,
it wouldn't necessarily
I totally
be
agree
a rush.
with you.
No, but I'm saying it wouldn't necessarily be a rush. It happens when it happens, and I think even people christen their children whether they're churchgoers or not. Sometimes less these days, but it still happens.
It's just a party.
But even churchgoers, I don't know whether it feels like there's a big rush, like we have to do it now, it's urgent, which is why I'd rather see this play out a little bit more like the Ivy and Nick story back in the late 80s, when she was she would gradually introduce Nick to the church to, make him in the football team, make him a choir boy, and it felt like that story then ran on for a bit longer, where it's just like, right, we got to go to the biggest, the sneaky baptism. It feels, it just feels too soon. I'd rather that this had played out over a bit of time, and that she'd been taking him off, pretending that she's going to the Red Rack, but she's actually going to the church. Maybe we even get to see some scenes in the church, and we get to see that Dee-Dee's church and the community there are really lovely people. And then it wouldn't feel so much like, Dee-Dee, what are you doing? Which is where I'm left with at the moment, even though I can understand her point of view.
I wonder if they don't want to alienate people by pushing Dee-Dee's perspective more than James's.
I don't know. But then equally, I suppose what I was saying before is that the story with Ivy did make her out to be crazy, and I don't think that... But that doesn't matter. But I didn't think that... Well, not crazy isn't the right word. He's just very, very devout. Unreasonably devout. But I don't think they want to make us feel bad about Dee-Dee. But the fact that they are rushing it rather than taking it slowly is kind of giving her a little bit of nut job vibes.
How much of a difference would it have made to people's perception of the storyline if there had been a scene where... Imagine if Dee-Dee had... come into a big, a church hall with Laila in her arms, smiling and holding the baby, and a group of people turned around and went, "Oh, look, Dee-Dee, you've brought Laila. This is amazing. Oh, she's gorgeous. Can we see her?" And all gone and fawned and loved on her. And we had seen what it means to Dee-Dee, without getting into the spiritual side of what she's into.
I would have liked that.
It would have made it would have made her perspective easier to understand. But I also think that lots of people, even if you don't believe in religion, can totally understand why somebody finds comfort in it. Would that have been too heavy-handed? I don't know. Maybe they just don't have time for... Maybe they don't have time for that. But...
It's a shame they don't want to give it time, but I suppose Dee-Dee did get quite a lot of the spotlight last year.
It would have been really lovely if we got to see that. And maybe, James might have been able to see... But I don't think Corrie wants to make out that James is wrong. I don't think
there's a right or a wrong here. I don't think we're being asked to say who's right. I know some people will say that. Especially whichever side that they most identify with.
It's really interesting because quite often we'll say, oh yeah, it's not obvious who's right or wrong in this. And then people will see people's comments and it's like, well, clearly...
Yeah. But no, I suppose that Dee-Dee... Dee-Dee wanting to get Laila christened isn't wrong, but Dee-Dee having a secret christening without telling the dad about it is wrong.
I agree with you, but I also think to myself, what difference does it make if he doesn't ever find out? And he will find out because it's a soap. But it does seem a bit like, from Dee-Dee's perspective, it just. But she's so dumb, because why would you ask somebody who knows both of you? Like,
yeah, there are other vicars.
But can you get a child christened by a vicar who is not of your parish, who doesn't know you, without going through a lot of paperwork? I don't understand. I don't know what you need to...
I imagine that there's lots of churches in Weatherfield, in Manchester, and maybe Dee-Dee wouldn't necessarily even go to Billy's church. She might go to another one.
I genuinely don't think Dee-Dee goes to Billy's church.
No, and I know that there will be some churches that are more frequently attended by members of the black community. So maybe Dee-Dee goes to one of those, and they would have been able to have scenes where a lady had been taken along to that church. Maybe even Dee-Dee would have been saying, yeah, she's my daughter. She could have been lying to them a little. Well, not lying. But,
well, yeah, that's true. It isn't a lie at all.
No, but
it
just feels like it's a bit rushed.
Okay, so I don't know. We know that it wasn't really a big part of their childhood to go to church, because the canon of the story is that Dee-Dee found religion in America.
Yeah.
And when James thinks of religion and the church, he's probably thinking of people that oppressed him, people that made him feel bad about being gay, and people that stopped him being who he was and prevented him from living the life he wanted to lead, even though it was actually footballers that did it. But okay. But what I'm saying is, when he thinks of a church, he probably thinks of like the Anglican church here, which is big, drafty, big old buildings full of white people sitting with their hands in their laps, being very quiet. But if he went to, say, Dee-Dee goes to a church that's got a lot of it's like a black church, Gospel he would choirs. See people like him. He would see a group of people like him, and maybe he would feel less alienated from it, because even white people find it a bit intimidating and scary. But James just like not seeing anyone who looks like him, who acts like him, who is like him in a group of people, and maybe seeing what Dee-Dee sees in the community might change his perspective.
Yeah, it is at least good, I suppose, that there hasn't been up until this point much overlap in James and Dee-Dee's time on the street, because I would say James never showed any problem with religion before, but really it was a case of once Dee-Dee showed up, James was only in the show for a couple of weeks, wasn't he? Then he was off. So this is the first time they've really clashed about it. But
the weird thing about it also is that in the story of James coming out, Dee-Dee was the one who always knew that he was gay.
Was it?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I think I remember them saying when Aggie was talking about it, Dee-Dee didn't need to be told because she already knew. Correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, but I thought that was the case. And so James talking about being rejected because he's gay by religious people, it's interesting that the only person who's really religious in his family was the one that accepted him the most. I definitely would never argue with somebody who was gay who said that they did not feel accepted by the church, because I feel that's a pretty established thing to think.
Yeah.
But
it's an established thing to think, but family, lots of people there's a lot of evidence, obviously, these days that that's not
Billy
necessarily
would tell
true
you the
for
same thing, and
for everybody. Yeah.
I do think that the Christians on Coronation Street are incredibly progressive.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Emily, she didn't have any problem, did she?
I don't remember.
I can't remember. That was a bit of a story, wasn't it? I didn't think she liked the idea that the vicar was gay. Or was she just more of a tradition? Oh no, they made out that was possibly her problem, but I think she actually just didn't like
the sort of
the music. That was it.
It's all the hip and the hop and the rapidy rap. I don't like it.
Yes, that's the thing.
Yeah. Okay. It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. And so let's talk about what actually happened, because on Monday, Dee-Dee comes back from this church group meeting and tells James that she had a brilliant time. She was praying for him and Laila, and he says, "Look, great, good, you can do what you want, but don't involve Laila in any organised religions, especially ones that don't accept me.
Yeah, he wants them in an anarchic religion, doesn't he?
Yeah, he wants a chaos religion. Do you have any of those? So, Dee-Dee goes and sees Lauren, and she still doesn't know who might have spiked her, and she's really scared about what would have happened to Frankie if she died, and what if he turned out like Joel. And Dee-Dee says that don't worry about this, and Lauren says that you would want the best for Laila as well, and then Dee-Dee says, yeah, well, it's not down to me how she's brought up, that's down to James.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a crossover with the other storyline, obviously, but my main takeaway of it was Dee-Dee realising that, well,
she's going to have no input in how Laila is raised.
But she can at least do one thing.
She can do one thing for the baby, but also that the spectre of Joel's involvement in Laila's genes is unresolved, and that was the main reason that she didn't want to keep her.
Yeah.
That she didn't want to raise this child who was Joel's child. And if she probably thinking to herself, it's even more likely that she'll go off the rails if I'm not there to take care of her. Not that she doesn't trust James, but that she probably doesn't even trust herself.
Yeah.
So anyway, Dee-Dee meets up with Billy in the pub and tells him what's going on and asks him if he would christen Laila. And he says, oh yeah, that's lovely. And then he realises that James doesn't know about it and says, I would really feel more comfortable about doing this if James said it was all right. Why didn't he just say no? It's like...
And surely there's going to be a scene where Billy's like, so, James...
How's the... No more demonic spoutings from the baby now I've driven out the demons?
It's far too risky to do this for Dee-Dee, considering how many other coincidental encounterings there are.
I know. But Coronation Street has still not come out and told us exactly what the legal arrangements are between Dee-Dee and James. I think it suits their purposes to keep us in the dark.
I thought that they pretty much said he's the legal guardian now.
How does that really work?
I don't know.
Is that true?
Yeah, I think so.
Have they?
I think they have.
Or have we just inferred it?
No, I think they have. I think James is now the legal guardian of Laila.
Okay.
I mean, he took her out to...
I know he did.
Didn't
they do a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. No, they went to America.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that if you're not the legal.
I know you can't. It doesn't mean that on Coronation Street they...
Always accurate in their facts and research and checking, aren't they?
Well, she goes and asks James about whether she can christen Laila and says it would mean a lot. And he says no. Why would a bit of water on her head make any difference as to whether she's a good person or not? I've made my decision up. It's 100% no.
Some people might also say at that point... If it's not a big deal. And I think maybe Dee-Dee might even say this. Like, if it's no big deal, what's the problem with it?
This is exactly the same argument that people have about getting married.
I know.
It doesn't make any difference, it's just a bit of paper. That argument works for both sides of the thing. It doesn't make any difference, it's just a bit of water. Why don't you do it? It doesn't make any difference.
You can't convince somebody who finds the symbolism incredibly powerful and super important, can you?
It's not like, but when you get christened, it's not like you get a certificate you can put in your CV, is it?
Or like certificate.
But you still get a certificate, do you? Where's mine then?
Well, it's probably in your baby book.
Oh, I don't know.
Surely, I would have thought you do. I don't know. I've never christened anyone.
Do you think when you die, like, you get to the heavenly gates and they're like,
papers, please.
Yeah, where's your bit of paper? Sorry, you're going to have to go around the side.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Just my luck, I wouldn't have it. So, James ends up sharing a drink with Todd in the pub and tells him about what's happened, and he says he's put his foot down but he just feels a bit guilty about it.
This is what then leads into James going back to Todd's house later.
Dee-Dee sees Billy in the shop and says, oh yeah, James says it's fine and he wants to get it done as soon as possible. He doesn't want to come, we'll talk about it.
Emergency christening, please, Billy.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
The demons are circling.
Have you seen Omen? Wednesday, James and Dee-Dee have a bit of an awkward talk, and he's like, just to remind you, no christening, but I don't mind if you're part of Laila's life. Then Dee-Dee invites Alia, and kind of like, do you want to come to like an undercover christening?
She's so kind of shifty and sly about it and beating around the bush about it because she knows that it's not the right thing to do.
And Alia realises...
I wouldn't invite Alia. If I wanted a secret christening, I'd be full of... Like I said, I'd find another vicar somewhere else and get it done on the sly. Although, I suppose a christening being a welcoming into your community, it's symbolic to have actual friends and family there. I don't know.
What does she want out of this? That's the question. What does she want out of it?
A christening, what do you mean?
No, because I can totally see why. If you believe in an eternal soul, you would want a christening for a child in case they die, because then they'll get to heaven, right? I can't see the point of forcing a christening onto a child if you don't think about that part of it and you're only caring about community and the rest of it, because they will decide themselves. It's literally, if you're talking about welcoming a child into the family of Christ and you know they're not going to ever go to church again after that point, it's totally pointless.
No, I think
it is pointless, because
it's like the kiss on the forehead from the Glenda the Good Witch, isn't it?
I don't know what that means.
Oh no, maybe I'm just thinking of Lily Potter, one of the others. The protection.
Lily the Potter and Glenda the Good Witch are both definitely, they were in Ravenclaw.
Lily kissed Harry on the forehead, and then that saved him from Voldemort for whatever happened. And I think that this is
that's
what
so it doesn't matter if she goes to church ever
no
again.
Oh yeah, no.
So you see what I mean? You're talking about two different things.
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
You're saying that she wants to invite her into a community, which is what Dee-Dee's been saying, but I'm saying it's literally like having an orientation at work and then never turning up again. What's the point? Why did you come?
But she would say that there was a lot of point.
But why?
Because it's an everlasting spiritual
Yes, that's
marker.
Different from being in a community.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There are two reasons to christen a child. One is to prevent their damnation.
All right, okay.
And one is to say, welcome to the church, kid.
I still wonder whether there is, down the line, going to be her trying to say, oh, I'll just look after Laila every Sunday if you like.
Yeah, but nobody goes, sorry, your kid can't come in. They're not christened.
No, I know.
But what? Yeah, but
I
what
think she wants the community bit of it and the
Coronation
christening
Street is not is treating it like it's a soul thing, but not admitting that's what it's like, because people wouldn't understand.
I don't know.
All right, okay, but there's no point saying you're in a community of people if you never turn up to another meeting. So
they're in spirit.
All right, it doesn't make any sense. Alia's like, don't go behind James's back, and Dee-Dee says Laila will miss out on something fundamental to her life if she doesn't go. And literally, she's not talking about a christening, she's talking about being religious. She wants Laila to be brought up in the church. Mm-hmm. That is a completely different thing from being christened. I'm going to say that the vast majority of children who have grown up to be our age in this country were christened and never went to church again, unless they went to a wedding or a funeral.
Yeah.
Are they missing out on something fundamental?
Well, the people who christened them at the time might have think that they would have been.
But what I'm saying is, we're going to heaven because we got christened. Other people go to church every Sunday. If they didn't get christened, they're going to hell. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get it. So the question is
she's missing out on something fundamental. She could go to church every Sunday and she would get more out of it than she would do if she got christened in secret. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, for sure.
If Dee-Dee thinks that she's doing anything for Laila in a fundamental community way to enrich her spiritual life, she's kidding herself, because she is not going to be there to take Laila to church every Sunday to follow up.
Unless
which is what is James's point. So really, if James just let her get her christened and didn't worry about it, and Dee-Dee never took her to church again, they'd both be getting what they wanted while simultaneously not achieving anything.
Yeah,
wouldn't they?
Maybe that's what will happen. Maybe they'll just come to the realisation next week. I want to know who the godparents are going to be, because I don't think Alia is qualified to be a godparent here, but we don't know any other of Dee-Dee's church-going friends.
Do you think that they will just make Alia the godmother?
No, they would not. They wouldn't do that.
Do you really think so?
I can't. No. Again, there's always so many parallels to classic Coronation Street. So this week, or last week, I can't remember when it was, Eileen got christened in the show.
Eileen?
Yes, so that she could be the godparent of Freddie Peacock. And she got
baptised or christened.
Whatever it is. There's not a huge difference between them. And lots of people will use the terms interchangeably.
Can I just explain, to me, baptism is done when you're an adult and a christening is done when you're a child.
Anyway.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong on it.
But it was Jack Duckworth also had to be christened so that he could... I can't remember what it was. It was something to do with... No, I don't remember, so it'll come to me later. But anyway, so... Corrie knew then that Eileen couldn't be the godmother, and they'd have some funny scenes of Eileen having to go to religious instruction classes and thinking this is silly, but fine if I get to be a godmother. But there's no way that Corrie could think that if they have a Muslim girl as a godparent to Dee-Dee, that people aren't going to raise eyebrows at that. That is not going to happen. But there isn't anybody that I can think of immediately that would make a good godparent to Laila, but she's got to have one, surely.
This is like, it's not like when you get married and you need a witness and it doesn't matter who they are.
Mm. I can't remember whether Sarah Louise was christened, because she's friends with Dee-Dee, isn't she?
She would be she's one of the girl
She would be a
friends.
suitable candidate, I think. But I can't remember whether they were christened or not.
A mother, a godmother and a godfather?
I don't think so. I think traditionally you would.
Interesting.
Shane Paul's dead, really. He'd make a great godfather material, wouldn't he?
Maybe Billy.
Well, not if Billy's doing the service.
Not Billy, I meant Todd.
Oh. Maybe. No, no, but Eileen didn't get Todd christened, did she? Surely. Anyway, look, we're theorising far too much about this little minor storyline.
Maybe I just... This is fascinating, but there's a lot of things that are kind of not being talked about, I think, is the point.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that then ties down into the fact that it's happening quite quickly. And I said at the beginning that this storyline feels like it's being rushed.
Well, Dee-Dee gets a phone call from Billy going, "It's gonna, christening's all on. We're gonna do it tomorrow.
Cancellation.
Just checking who's the godparent."
Does he say that?
No, he doesn't. You think he would do? You think he'd have a little book? Do you think he's got to write it down? I don't know.
Click on the certificate, isn't it?
Is it legally binding?
I don't think so. You're bound to give me a £5 in a card from my birthday for the next 18 years.
That's my experience of a godparent, is that I got a
yeah.
I got £5 in my card.
Yeah, same with me, with Auntie Val or Sue, did I?
Sue.
Was Sue my godmother?
Yes.
Actually? Okay. I'm glad you know who my godmother is.
It's very important.
Yeah.
Right, so this is obviously going to take place next week because Coronation
She still
Street.
sends us a Christmas card, doesn't she?
She does.
Yeah.
She's bound for life now. She can't get out of it. She's waiting for death. It doesn't matter who comes first, but that's how you get out of it. So next Thursday is when this christening will take place because there is no Monday or Wednesday Coronation Street. It's only Thursday and Friday.
Yes. But in the world of Weatherfield, it's tomorrow.
Dee-Dee comes home and says, "James, can I spend more time with Laila?" And he says, "Yeah, I was going to take her to baby yoga, but okay." And we all know that baby yoga is where they get inducted into satanic rituals.
Yeah, baby yoga, that's all very... What is that, Buddhism?
It's definitely against God. Did Jesus do yoga?
No.
Would he? No.
I like how in the notes there I wrote she wants to spend more time with Laila, like she's a bit of Teletubbies.
Is she Poe?
Maybe.
Tinky Winky. What's the other one called?
Dipsy.
Dipsy or Tipsy?
Dipsy. Oh, that reminds me, we went to the cinema at the weekend, didn't we? And we watched 28 Years Later, because that had a Teletubbies reference at the beginning of it, didn't it?
Yeah. Won't say any more about that.
No. Also in the past week, I forgot to mention, I did have a birthday haircut, didn't I?
Oh my God.
And there's a story there, because I got home and Gemma says that's the worst haircut I've ever had. Do you want to elaborate?
Oh my God.
I'm not giving you a cough, am I?
I think it's coming on, to be honest with you. And this is not helping. I am always very positive, and I big you up because you're my husband, and I want you to be confident and happy, and you're handsome, and I want you to know, because we're all too hard on ourselves. But I also am honest because I know you don't take it personally, so I wouldn't do this if it upset you, would I?
No.
But because you don't have an ego, you're not very vain.
No, not really.
You don't kind of link your self-worth to your appearance.
No.
So I would never do anything to undermine your confidence. So when you came home, I felt very free to tell you that you did look awful and the worst I've ever seen your hair.
They just left my fringe like really long.
They left it really long and you look like Friar Tuck but without the bald patch.
Yeah.
It was the worst. I couldn't even look at you because it made me sad because you looked terrible.
My birthday week as well.
And you kept going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I was like, I don't know. Go back and tell them. And you wouldn't go back. And so you got your scissors and then you made it shorter and you looked even more
no, you did it first.
Well, you said to me, no, you said do it. And I said, I can't. And then you made me do it and I started doing it. I went, I've made it worse. Through and said,
I've made it worse. I can't. As he freaked out. So then I had to go and stand in front of a mirror and trim my own fringe with a different pair of scissors. And you still said it looked bad, but
it looks good now. I think it looks better. Now.
It's grown out a little bit in the week.
Oh my God. It was the worst.
Yeah. Anyway, just a little diversion there, but a peek into our lives. We had a tiny bit of the Steve and Cassie story on Monday's episode, didn't we? There wasn't much. It was just kind of setting up a bit more of a friendship between Sally and Cassie and more of a rivalry between Cassie and Tracy. Not that they need any excuse to be at each other's throats, but...
Yeah, Cassie does a double date at Speed Dial with Tim and Sally and Steve. And Sally and Cassie kind of have catty remarks. And when Tracy comes down, because they're in Speed Dial, she wants to pick up a takeaway. And Cassie doesn't believe it's a coincidence. She thinks she's been spied on. And... Tracy tries to put Cassie in her place, saying, you're just the latest in a long line of conquests, including Leanne.
Oh yeah, Leanne walks past at that point, doesn't she? She's like, including this one.
Cassie's not fussed about this, but it seems to have made Sally and Cassie bond a bit closer.
Yeah, the fact that, because Sally is also not Tracy's number one fan, so they found a shared interest.
So they're planning a charcuterie hot tub party, which sounds disgusting. Can you imagine all that hot, sweaty pork floating around? Steve says he thinks he's falling for Cassie, but she doesn't. She's kind of like, oh, what do I think of that?
I thought that was odd because I don't understand these things, but I thought that she had been kind of falling for him as well.
I thought she would love this.
She was all loved up with him, and when he says it's not like he got down on one knee. He didn't say I love you. No,
he just said he was falling for her.
Yeah,
and then he says to her later, "Look, sorry, I jumped the gun a bit. I don't want to scare you off. I really care about you." And she says, "Yeah, I care about you too. I was just taken aback a bit." But when they sit down, she's like, oh, what's happening here?
Mm-hmm. So
I don't know. I think there's more. I think I would like an explanation of what is going through Cassie's head at the moment, because it's not apparent to me. Like, does she feel like she's not good enough for him, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure. And they didn't have it on Wednesday, so I guess we have to wait and find out. So how many hot tub charcuterie parties are you giving this week's Coronation Street then?
It was all right, wasn't it? It was like 3.5.
You can't get. I think I'll probably go 3 for this one. I'm going to say 3 rubber glove shops out of 5 for me, which was the reference. I can't remember what they was. Oh, they were saying that they were coming up with names. What would you call Preston's petals? And Tim says that he called it marigolds.
Yeah.
Steve said, you'd only be able to sell one kind of flower there, or rubber gloves. So that's where I'm getting it from this week. You don't actually sell marigolds in flower shops, do you? You get more like garden centre kind of bloom.
You wouldn't. No, you couldn't.
Anyway, it's just me being picky.
I had an idea for what I was going to call it then, and it's gone out of my head.
We'll go back to the charcuterie hot tub parties if you like.
No, 3 pregnancy bellies that I'll never get to use now it's all come out.
Yeah, that's going to come in. It's probably already been delivered at this point, hasn't it? She's probably on Prime.
Do you think they're like, sorry, no, we can't cancel your order of a pregnant belly, because we get this all the time where people get rumbled before we even deliver. I don't know why we bother.
Who's your character of the week? I don't know whether I've got any obvious ones for this week.
No, it's not obvious.
It's not going to be anyone in the Webster storyline for sure. I'm feeling so about what's going on with Gary. I don't think anyone there jumps out to
I'm going to vote for the demonic presence that's haunting Laila that has to be exorcised by the christening that's going to happen next week.
Are you sure? That's an awful lot for Rebecca to write down on her list.
Just put demonic presence.
Okay. I am going to be sensible about this and give it to... I can't decide.
See?
There's not really been anyone that's been the major standout to me. Millie has been kind of fun.
Millie's a minx, love her. You got Kevin, you got Abby, you got Carl,
I
got...
know.
All right.
Cassie was
I'm
good.
just filling the silence because you're supposed to be sick.
No, I wasn't being silent. I think it was probably... I think it was probably Dee-Dee, because as totally wrong as she was, I think it was kind of fun what she's doing.
I think if you had a child and you were Dee-Dee and you knew that she wasn't christened, it would be like an itch. It would be like something you had to scratch, like constantly in the back of your head, like, I've got this thing I've got to do and I haven't done it. Something I've got to do and I haven't done it. I need to get it done.
Well, there we go then. One character of the week for Dee-Dee and one for the demonic presence of the demons that are circling around baby Laila.
Mm-hmm. You've got to be careful. You've really got to be careful. You can't take it.
Yeah.
You got to take it seriously.
And that is this week's this week's Street Talk seems like it's gone on for about the same long as
I know.
normal Street Talk, and there's only been 2 episodes. Oh well, it's over now.